I want to talk about the Multicultural Media Correspondents' Dinner and the need for it, but I want to preface it by summarizing a conversation that I witnessed in North Carolina, where a very earnest white man was saying, why do we need to have the historic black colleges? There's no discrimination today. Why shouldn't they study with everybody else?
Why does it affect you if a black person wants to go to a historically black college? Why does that bother you as a white person? What don't you want them to learn? They're going to learn more about the history of the United States and the racial history of the United States and how that has affected the national psyche to this day. I mean, you look at the police departments, this is a historic thing.
Yeah.
You know, I'm a large black man. I don't know if you're aware of this, Eric. We have superpowers. We have superhuman powers because whenever a cop kills a young black man, the young black man had superhuman strength and you know, it's interesting. I was talking once to this white woman about that, and she was like, really? And then she started looking at the articles and she was like, you're right. Everywhere it says he was super strong. You know, Michael Brown had super strength. You know, Trayvon Martin, who was a skinny kid, somehow had superhuman strength. So as a person with superhuman strength, I say we can have our own colleges.
Well, the answer that was given, first of all, there were two answers. A white person who's part of the NAACP said, that's just racist, and he was mad. Okay. Then an Asian American woman said, you know, since I came to this country as a little girl, there's always been a question mark over my head. And I've always felt like people were looking at me and saying, are you really an American? Are you really one of us? And when you're studying or when you're worshiping, there's certain times when you don't want to have a question mark over your head. You just want to be among people who don't have questions about you and welcome you just based on who you are. And I think that's kind of what the Multicultural Media Correspondents' Dinner was.
Well, yeah, the Multicultural Media Correspondents' Dinner was the chance for correspondents, media, people of color, of different backgrounds, and so on, to not be aware of that.
Yeah.
In that room, they were the media, they were correspondents, and they weren't on a second tier versus the mainstream media versus the white media versus, and again, the white media isn't necessarily racist, but there are opportunities that haven't existed for these people. Opportunities are starting to exist now. So, so the race can be part of the reason they're not on TV. I mean, if you look at Fox News, look, if you're not a blonde woman, you got a hard way to go at Fox News.
Oh,
you know?
Or a man over 50.
Or a man over 50. See, here's the thing. When white people talk about racism, the thing that so many of them don't acknowledge is you have the power. So no matter how many black people are mad at you, or brown people, or Asian people, or whatever, they don't have the power you have. You have the power in this society. You control, I joke about it, but you control the banks. You control the Ivy League institutions. You're the member of the country clubs where these decisions are made, where these meetings are had that no one else can get into. So when you say a black person's racist, that doesn't hurt you. You know why? Because you don't have to go, I'll give you an example. You don't have to go into their neighborhood. You see, you don't have to go into a black neighborhood to conduct business or to conduct affairs. But if you're black or brown, you have to go to a white neighborhood to go to the courthouse, to go to the bank, to do certain things. So you have to deal with it. That's the difference.
Well, I think that the Rush Limbaugh or the Fox News or the Donald Trump supporter would hear that and say, I don't control the banks, I don't go to those country clubs, so you're lumping me in with people who do have the power when I'm just like you.
I am lumping that person in. I'm lumping in the Donald Trump supporter, the Rush Limbaugh supporter, because he has white privilege he doesn't even know about.
Right.
Because the average white man, he's never scared of the cops.
Right.
Never. It never occurs to him that the police might hurt him, arrest him, that thought never enters his mind. He's never applied for a loan or a job or a fill in the blank and walked away saying, wow, I wonder if I didn't get that because I was white. He's never had that thought. He's never had to deal with that. He's never had to explain to his child why he's treated differently. That, you know, and even women have to deal with this to some extent, but the white male has never had to deal with this. So when he says it doesn't exist, it's because he can't comprehend it. Because it's never entered his world. You know,
it's like a fish saying, I don't know what this water thing you're talking about is.
Right. And it's Yeah, like a fish can't tell you what water is.
Right.
Because his whole world is water.
Right.
You know, so that, and again, it's not always negative. Sometimes it's just ignorance. And when I say ignorance, I don't mean the willful ignorance of the angry, typical, I shouldn't say typical, stereotypical, angry Southern Rush Limbaugh guy.
Fox News.
Talking about,
I call Fox News white entertainment television.
I'm talking about the person who really just doesn't know. Sometimes people just, they're not even aware of it, and then something happens and like, wow. Yeah. That was really different. Like they'll have, you know, they'll be with a person of color and see that person treated differently. And they're like, what? Wow. That, you know, a perfect example, what's going on now with the police. You know, the police and the violence police have against people of color. Suddenly people are like, wait a minute. This really happens? Like, well, yeah, we've been telling you it happens, but now we have camera phones. And that's the only reason they believe it, because now they're seeing it. Yeah. You know, a Rodney King beating, a Trayvon Martin, Michael Brown, a fill in the blank is never a shock to a black person.
Yeah.
No black person surprised. Oh, really? The cops beat him to death? The cops shot him? Nobody's surprised, because we know that happens.
This is the multicultural forum, and we have to be tolerant of those who are different than us, and I am, because I understand. Let me tell you something. We have a phenomenon in this country, the angry white man, the old school, racist, sexist, angry white man, and I understand. I understand, because he's had a bad run. You know what I'm saying? You look at him the past few years, and it ain't been easy. Because first we hit him with a black president. And then he said, oh, we got a black president. And then he found out the black president was smarter than him. And he was like, oh, man, we got a black president. What else? Where are you going to come with? And the gays got married. The gays were allowed to get married, and God did not smite them. And now he's like, oh, the black president, and now the gay people are getting married. What are they going to do next? And we said, well, you can't shoot, the cops can't shoot the young black people anymore, okay? It's not illegal, but it doesn't have the approval rating it once had.
And the reason I say that is because they're still not being penalized.
Yeah.
At worst, they get fired, but no one's going to jail for murder. Nobody's going to jail for manslaughter. Nobody's held accountable for a, quote, wrongful death. Society frowns on it, but they're still not being held accountable. When a cop shoots a black or a brown person, they're going to get away with it.
It creates a lot of trouble for them. And I got to tell you that the most offensive thing I've seen on white entertainment television, actually the 10 most offensive things I've seen on white entertainment television, were all about the Black Lives Matter movement. Trying to portray it as anti-police, as violent, even comparing them to terrorists.
Right. Black Lives Matter, they love to call it terrorist organization, and you know, they're starting riots.
So now you got a black president, and the gays are getting married. We can't shoot the black kids. What are you going to do to me next? And we said, Hillary Clinton. And not just a woman, but Hillary Clinton. It can't get any worse. And we said, Harriet Tubman's going on a $20 bill. That's right.
And I love this argument. Don't all lives matter? Yeah, but you know what? The police don't take all lives, okay? They act like they don't know. Like, wait, all lives matter, don't they? Mm-hmm. As if they don't notice there is a preponderance of black and brown people being killed by the police. Yeah. And if you really search on occasion, you might find one white person that was mistreated by the police or beaten by the police, you know, some poor guy in a trailer park somewhere.
Well, actually, because there's so many more white people in the country, it's actually more white people are killed by police. There's just a disproportionate representation.
But more white people may be killed by police, but not under the same circumstances. Yeah. Not being killed for being like an old Franklin Ajayi joke. I got arrested for being black on a sunny day.
Yeah.
But I had a really good lawyer, got it reduced to partly cloudy. You know, I mean, that's the way it is. Listen, I live in L.A., and I used to have a great job, a really good job. I worked for Lockheed Aircraft. I made good money. I had nice cars. I was a young kid, okay, 19, 20, early 20s, and I was driving like an RX-7 and a Corvette. And so I got pulled over for driving while black all the time. Yeah. You know something? That was normal. Now you give a 20-year-old white kid a BMW, the cops don't pull him over. They figure, oh, his parents bought him the car or something like that. He doesn't get pulled over for just being in the BMW.
In my documentary work and in my reporting, I talk to a lot of people who are, let's just say they have a big problem with African Americans.
Yeah.
Okay. So a person who I've spent time with, I've even dined with, said that the police need to kill black people from time to time in order to keep them
in line. Yeah. For someone to say that the police need to kill a black person now and then to keep them in line, keep them down, keep them scared. Again, you think I would be super offended by that? I'm not even surprised by that. That's a belief. I just told you a few minutes ago, we have super strength. So you got to kill us now and then. And also, there's also looking at black people, and this goes back to slavery. Again, this is historic, and this is pounded into one's DNA. They don't look at you as fully human. So taking your life isn't the same as killing a person. But during slavery, black people were not considered human. There are too many white people who still believe that they're animals, that the men are crazed with violence and the women are crazed with sex, and that's why you can treat them any way you want. The police killing them, keeping them scared, keep them down. Yeah, that idea of keep them down, even with compliments, okay, even with black athleticism, well, it's, because they're black, they have super strength, they can run, they can jump, they can do this and that. Now, scientifically, you probably could look at the fact that the American black was bred, okay? Literally, we were bred to be the biggest, strongest slaves, and if that 100 years later leads to remarkable athleticism, I'm not a geneticist. I'm not a genetic scientist. I can't explain that, but I can believe it. But even that they will use as an insult.
Well, it's an excuse, right? That's what the guy said who shot Michael Brown.
Right.
Is that he reminded me. He said some superhero. He reminded me of somebody running at me, or he was a football player running at me, and that's the reason why his self-defense argument makes sense, because can you imagine how scary it would be? Well, I have the gun, but he's black.
That self-defense argument always works, that although he's unarmed, he's black. So he's stronger, he's faster, he's bulletproof. We have to shoot him, and that's why you have to shoot him 16 times, because those first 15 bullets didn't hurt.